We'll keep it long. Hey, hello, I'm Ben Coleman, one of your hosts here at the Florida Aviation Network. We're coming to you live and in the clear, streaming live on the internet. If you're watching this, great. If you're not, you just don't know any better. And we're at the 45th Annual Sun and Fun International Flying and Expo. We used to call it a convention, it's an expo now. And coming to you from the Florida Air Museum at the Aerospace Center of Excellence. Got to remember that. Lights, I forgot to mention that and give a plug, and he nailed me last night. I had to buy him drinks all night long. It was awful. But we are here for the purposes of expanding our safety efforts, and we're talking about every one of our programs will have a thread to safety. That's what we're here for. That's what our volunteers are doing. Wade, Sierra, what's so funny on camera 2? And we got Jack Mendez on camera 1, and Bill, thank you for your help there as forward manager. Behind the scenes, there's so many folks that we'd like to recognize, but you'll see them on the trailer for the credits. And today, it just wouldn't be the same if we didn't have either one of our vendors, one of our suppliers, one of our manufacturers, or most importantly, those that represent our manufacturers. And we have Mr. Dan Johnson. Dan, welcome.
Thank you, Ben. Great to be back here with you.
LAMA. Tell us what LAMA stands for.
LAMA stands for Light Aircraft Manufacturers Association. We're kind of the gamma for the little guys. Gamma is the General Aviation Manufacturers Association. They do a wonderful job for the larger airplanes up to jets and so forth. But somebody had to take care of the smaller guys. Now, we get help from all those people and EAA and AOPA. We work together. But, you know, they've all got their focus, and we understand that. And I'm a member of those organizations. I want them to keep that focus. But we have to focus on some other things sometimes. So LAMA is dedicated to just that all day, every day, light sport aircraft, what I'm now calling sport pilot kits. They're not technically light sport, but someone with a sport pilot certificate can fly them. So light sport aircraft, sport pilot kits, and ultralights. That's our space. And in that space, we think we're doing some helpful things.
How important is funding to your efforts?
Well, it's pretty important. Although we are a volunteer organization. I am a volunteer. Other people are volunteers. So we do without pay. It's our give back to aviation, if you will. I have other things that I do for a living. And we're happy to do that, so we can get along on a lot less. We don't have a big fancy building, and we don't work out of DC where it's a kind of expensive property place to be.
True.
And I understand why you might want to be there all the time, but we're willing to hop on an airplane and stay in a motel and go into DC and talk to the folks there at the Ivory Tower and try and help them make great decisions.
On Mahogany Road, yes, we know it well. Dan, I was trying to give you a segue because right here I have in my hand an imaginary check for my membership dues.
Thank you so much, Ben. That's what makes it work.
I support LAMA and have for quite a long time.
Thank you very kindly.
And the Coleman Aero Marine is dedicated to the proficiency of pilots and the proliferation of our vocation. How's that for some big long words?
Well,
OB2 and out the trailer, OB2 he's rolling right now. How does he do that?
Well, Aero Marine's important. That's the guys that go on water.
You betcha.
And we need that. It's an important, fun segment, but it always needs attention.
Tell us, Dan, I know that this is a very international flair that we have with the light sport movement and activity. How do we stand now internationally with what's going on with the light sport category?
Sure. Let me explain why it's global. That's because in the past, nation by nation made up rules about what makes an airplane strong enough, regulations, and said, okay, you need to do this, that, and the other thing, and then we can approve your aircraft because it's then safe for a customer to buy and take their families or business associates and fly around the country and do things. And they've done a great job with that for many, many years. The trouble with it is it gets quite prescriptive. It's so specific to get everything just right, all the I's dotted and T's crossed, that it gets a little cumbersome too. FAA has recognized that, and light sport, in a sense, was a kind of experiment to say, could we do it another way? And the other way is an organization called ASTM, which is a standards writing organization. Now, they don't know anything about airplanes. What they know about is how you organize the process of getting experts together and help them formulate standards. We did that, and we did all that, again, all volunteers. A few people got paid, but mostly they were volunteers who spent their own time to go to meetings and say, should we have this quality to make sure airplanes are safe, or that one? And over a process of many years, they developed a real solid set of standards, but those standards aren't just American. They can be used by any country that says, yeah, those look pretty good. Why don't we just use those instead of making our own?
Why recreate the wheel?
Lots of countries do that.
Yeah.
Lots of countries, and a growing number. So when a manufacturer of any light sport aircraft finishes the process, they declare that they meet these standards. That's how it works. And then FAA evaluates that to be sure that they've done all the right things. But even that's gotten better. FAA is happier with the industry. Industry has learned what FAA wants, and today we're working very well together, I believe. But now all those other countries just go, oh, well, we can use those standards. So that manufacturer gets his airplane all done or her airplane all done, and they can just go into all these other countries that accept that. And they don't have to reapprove, and there's some details, but not nearly the project it used to be. This has worked so well that FAA is now moving in that direction for the what's called Part 23, the certified Cessnas and Cirruses and so forth, all meet that standard. That standard itself is changing to become more like what light sport does. So we were one of those experiments that worked.
Well, and I'm proud to say that I know Sue Gardner well. She's a good friend with the FAA, and she was right at the tip of the spear on this
Absolutely.
formulation.
She's a very special woman.
If it wasn't for Sue's, I'm going to say personality and her love for the industry, I don't know if it would be as successful as it would be. But she was driving the boat.
It's hard to know, but she was definitely, she and Scott, can't think of his last name, sorry Scott, but anyway, she and Scott Sedgwick, I think it might have been, they went around the country, they talked to so many people, they asked all the right questions, and then they asked them again, and then they asked other people, did a yeoman's duty of work to get that right, and then sold it through FAA, which, as you know, has its own challenges.
Oh, yeah.
And it should be. There's guards and checks and balances within the agency, and that's what they're supposed to do, but she had to go sell that in the agency, then go sell it to the public, and then sell it to the manufacturers, and as soon as you said her name, I had a smile on my face because she was a wonderful person.
Yeah, she cut her teeth flying. She flew charter up in Alaska for a long time.
Yeah, that's some duty.
That's not for the faint of heart, trust me.
No, it's not. But essential. So.
No, very, very. ASTM, and I know we glance over the acronyms in government especially, but American Standards for Testing and Materials.
Well, it was.
Now what is ASTM?
It's just ASTM International now. The reason why is because some countries went, well, we don't want to do it just like the Americans. We like what they did, perhaps, but we don't want to just be like them. And they realized that. And so many of the people, of the 250 people that are on what's called the F-37 committee, that's the light sport committee, 80% of them are out of the U.S. So it's not really an American system. It's a global system. And everyone, you, people watching, can all sign up, be a member, and contribute to that if they wish.
Believe it or not, I am.
Excellent.
I'm on their fuels
That's
committee.
very important. So, and they do lots of things. It's not just aviation. They, amusement rides are that way. And here's a really important one. Automobile fuel and aviation fuel around the world is not certified by any government.
Correct.
All ASTM. So
And
obviously it works pretty good.
do you ever get an appliance and see that UL stamped on it? Kind of like Underwriters Laboratory.
Another very important. A private organization does that too. So.
Sure. So it's encouraging to see that have an impact on aviation. It really does. And having an impact, talk to us about power plants. What's new in the power plant arena?
Well, we've got some exciting things. So there's kind of a division in how that works. Three-way division. First of all, everybody knows the brand Rotax. 30 years ago, Europeans knew it, Americans weren't so familiar with it, unless they maybe had a snowmobile. But Rotax is the leading player right now. Somewhere around 70 or more % of all the light aircraft use their engine. But they don't have it to themselves because they've got some strong competition from, let's say, Continental Motors, which took over a company that makes an engine called the Titan. And there's lots of these Titans on light sport aircraft now too. And there's other companies like Jabiru and HKS that went through the whole process of getting approved. But then there's a third track, which is automobile engine conversions. Now, they can be used on some types of light sport, or they can go through the ASTM process themselves, but for a home builder who doesn't need that extra paperwork and just wants something a little more than what the other guys offer, you've got automobile conversions, companies like Viking Aircraft Engines and Aero Momentum. So if you want engines, we got engines. All sizes, all shapes. UL Power's another one. They do some great stuff with a full FADEC engine in light sport.
Wow.
Pretty cool.
FADEC's expensive, but sometimes you get what you pay for.
Well, and it's less expensive here.
Yeah.
Because the regulatory barrier's not so high. They can do their work in a garage or whatever it takes to do the right stuff, declare it, have FAA look over what they declared, and they could be in business. It's not easy. It's a tough set of standards, but almost anybody can start to tackle it.
Dan, I looked inside of, I think it was a CT the other day, and it's a glass panel.
It's all glass. There's not a round dial in there, is there?
I mean, it's just, I didn't feel qualified to fly the darn thing. So, and
Pretty
I
easy,
really
you just follow that little airplane on that screen, you know. Do what he does and you'll get there.
Children of the magenta line, that's what we call it. The heck with navigation and dead reckoning. But,
well, those seem like, that's what I grew up with too, I can't dismiss that. And of course, looking outside the window is obviously important. But man, these screens, I now say, I spot the traffic on my screen before my human eyes see it. And I'm a backup to it now. Now I still look, because you have to.
You know, Dan, they're going to have a couple. They're going to have a couple GoPros feeding into the screen, and you don't need a windshield anymore. They don't look out anyway. We got to keep our heads out of the cockpit,
absolutely,
guys.
Absolutely.
Head out.
It's kind of like those cars that drive. They insist you still keep a hand on the wheel. The ones that'll steer themselves down the road, I mean.
For now.
And yeah, well, that may be changing too. We're in a brave new world, and it's exciting, but some of that is starting right here in the light sports space, so we're very excited about it.
Dan, talk to me a little bit, and this is a ringer. This is a ringer. You may not be able to talk about it, but electric propulsion, electric power plants. We're right on the cusp of having electric motors strong enough that will last long enough to give us enough power to actually sustain flight. Where can we go with that?
Well, for starters, the motor, the electronic control unit, or ECU, they're already 95% efficiency. They're proven, they're done. They've got little motors, they've got great big motors. The problem is the batteries, the energy storage device. That fuel tank full of its gasoline is a remarkable thing. I'm not anti-fossil fuels. They have done a wonderful job for humanity. Maybe their time is fading, maybe not, we'll see about that, but electric is certainly exciting. You know, you don't have oil spills, you don't ever have any startup problems, you push the button, boom, it comes to life. That's pretty exciting.
But Dan, don't you mean rather than the problem is the batteries, you mean the opportunities?
Sure, well said, Ben. Yes, right.
Sorry about that.
And you know what, I hear all the time, well, they're advancing 3, 5, 8% a year, whatever that number is, but we know about from compounding money that, you know, 7.2% for 10 years, you've doubled it. So we've been at this for a while. These batteries are going to get better, and it's going to explode. And fortunately, aviation doesn't have to carry that on its back, because the automobile guys and lots of other people are the power grid people, all exploring storage, which is really what that is then. And in the meantime, we've got hybrid systems that are starting to come on. In fact, there's so much happening, Ben, it's hard to keep up with it all. And we have new magazines and new websites devoted just to that. Yeah. Very exciting.
Yeah, this is a good time to be in aviation.
It's a wonderful time.
And how about, this is something, Dan, that we don't see a lot of with Llama, or I haven't, is the introduction of young people into the light sport arena. It seems like the light sport has been kind of, not captivated, but by the middle-agers and the millennials, so forth. But what is Llama doing to help us get these 10, 12, 13, 14-year-olds to get an interest in aviation in the light sport arena a bit more affordable than the full registered Part 2023 airplanes?
Well, I think it's obviously price is important, and the price of an average light sport, and that's, what is an average one? I don't know. They run anywhere from literally down below $20,000 up to over $200,000. So there's a pretty big range in there. However, there's something in there that's a lot more affordable than the choices we had prior. Nothing wrong with those other airplanes. They've done some marvelous duty. That's what I learned how to fly in. But the new flock that's coming along offers not only lower purchase costs, but very importantly, lower operational costs. The amount of fuel they use per hour is way less, and they can use automobile fuel, which costs less. So those things help. But it's more than that. When a young person comes out and looks in that CTSW or CTLSI that you looked at and sees all glass panel, he doesn't react like you and I do. He doesn't go, where's the round dials? He doesn't know about round dials. He's had this thing in his hand for his whole life, and he knows how to push those buttons or tap on that screen. Well, it looks at home to him. It's not intimidating. It's like, oh, okay. I don't understand how this thing flies, but I know how to work that, I bet. And he probably can do it better than you and me.
Yeah, that's easy.
So that's important. And they're made out of cool materials, carbon fiber and Kevlar, and they're smooth and shapely. And they're different. And all of those things appeal to young people, I think. But boy, if you're a young person, and if you're listening, or if you have young people around you, man, is this a wonderful time for a young person to plug in if you want to move to airline or corporate or maintenance. Maintenance is another huge undersold thing. Tremendous demand, well-paying jobs, nice work, kind of exciting. Geez, if you're not paying attention to this, young folks, start thinking about it.
Dan, who keeps track of the numbers of light sport aircraft that are either sold or operated worldwide? Who keeps track of that?
Well, it's actually, thank you very much for that, but it's something that I do on my website, which is buydanjohnson.com. And we instituted a thing. I have to give all credit to a man named Steve Best, who was a computer engineer, retired now, but he worked in the database world. And he said, I can do what you want. Go into the FAA database, make sense of it. Not saying those people didn't do their job right, but there's a lot of variety, a huge number of models and types, and I don't know how they do any of it, but there's different names for the same thing. Well, that makes it tough to count them then. So he's gone in and demystified all of that, and we now have, there's a link right on the top of my website. It says, you want to know who the leading brands are? Just click here, all laid out for you, and the user can adjust it any way they want. Every single aircraft in the space is now accounted for. Everyone. We've left no one out. And if you don't believe us and you've got one, you can find yourself on that list. So that's pretty cool.
We had one of the leaders, Dan, here on an interview earlier, Bristol Aircraft.
Oh yeah.
And they were patting themselves on the back, and I guess rightfully so.
They should, yes. They had a very good last year.
Yeah, the number one import.
Yep.
And
lovely airplanes.
And it's and there's what's new coming down the road. I mean, when you just mentioned, I agree, Bristol is lovely, but there's other new designs that are coming out, and I don't know if I was somebody in the engineering world, what would make me want to come across and think I can make a better mousetrap than some of these other mousetraps that are out there?
Well, the beauty of it is, Ben, they're not all Me Too's. If they were exactly the same as the other guy, maybe they could do this or that a little better, or better price point or something else, that's probably not enough to be compelling. So they've all find different ways to affect the technology or the shape of it or something like that, and they can do some good things with it. But I got to say that it's not just light sport. Here at Sun and Fun, if you're on the grounds, please do go down to Paradise City, off to the east a little bit, where you can see light sports and all the rest, but you'll see a lot of Part 103s. That whole segment is growing, and in fact, 3 producers that I know of say they are building to capacity. They can't even build anymore, and the timelines are starting to stretch out. That shows a lot of interest in that.
We were talking down at Sebring, and I was very disappointed to find out that my backyard flyer.
Backyard flyer, yeah, they decided to hang it up, but where one leaves, 2 come in to replace them.
It leaves
a
vacuum.
So.
It leaves a vacuum
right.
when you have something like that, and affordability. That's you're talking about a 103 that, and if everybody is not aware of Part 103, look it up. But that does handle the ultralight requirements.
Right.
From a certification standpoint,
the entire regulation on one piece of paper, front and back of a single 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. Think about that in a regulatory world.
Yeah.
These aircraft run anywhere from literally, I'm not kidding about this, $15,000, $16,000 ready to fly to $20,000 to $25,000. That's a good price point. The average price of an automobile in the United States now is $33,000. These airplanes are 50% less than that, ready to fly. That's remarkable.
Some of them you can fold the wings up, take it home, keep it in your carport.
Right, don't even have hangar fees.
Yep.
Pretty remarkable.
I tell you what, Dan, I am very, very disappointed. One thing disappoints me more than anything. I'm about 40 years too late. If you were 20 years old today, can you imagine?
I'm afraid I can't, Ben. I wish I could say I did. But then what would I do with all that experience I spent all this time acquiring?
Well, that's the only thing it disappoints me a little bit. But
hey, we're not done yet.
If we were 20 years old, we wouldn't know what we know now. And we wouldn't be able to give back to all these young folks.
Yeah, look out. Look out, airplane sellers.
Dan, thanks so much for joining us here.
Thanks so much, Ben, for having me, and thanks for your support as well.
It's my pleasure, and it's always good to hear what's going on with Llama.
Appreciate it.
All right, folks, there we go. We're going to wrap this one up, and I think I'm going to go out and walk around on the flight line a little bit, see some of these. And I'm going to Paradise City, see what new Part 103 aircraft we have out there. I'm Ben Coleman, one of your hosts, Florida Aviation Network, live and in the clear. See you later.